What's up, my beautiful bros? Maine-iac here, and honestly, you can click away if you're not interested in this topic. This topic is going to be about quarterbacks in the NFL, and especially the injuries they have been facing. Now, when you know beforehand, so like I said, you can click off if you want to. I don't want to waste your time, but it's something I want to talk about. So if you want to stay tuned, then thank you. Don't forget to leave a like, maybe subscribe for some more NFL content. If this actually gets more attention, I will start producing better, more high quality content of the NFL. Right now, I just don't have the time to delegate towards it. Okay, so the conversation starts. As you can see, we have the Saints and the Steelers on the screen right now. They both have suffered not catastrophic injuries per se, but devastating injuries nonetheless. You have Drew Brees, who is believed to be out for, I believe, about 6 weeks, but he is seeing a second opinion today, so maybe he can do something to get back quicker. So Teddy Bridgewater fills in for him. Then you have Ben Roethlisberger, who's out for the year after elbow surgery. So Mason Rudolph fills in for him. This is after we've already lost Nick Foles for the year for the Jaguars. So Gardner Minshew, the 70s porn star looking dude, fills in for him. It's an interesting trend that I don't think I've seen in a long time. Granted, there have been a lot of seasons where, let's say, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, Jimmy G gets hurt, stuff like that. But this is unprecedented on a whole different level. We have Big Ben, currently out. Drew Brees, currently out. Sam Darnold, currently out due to mono. Nick Foles, currently out. Now, I believe Trevor Siemian is getting an MRI on his ankle today. I believe he fucking broke the damn thing. Because when Myles Garrett was sacking him last night, you could see him place his foot underneath, and it looked like it snapped, so either he broke his ankle or he got lucky and his ankle just dislocated, which honestly, a dislocation of the ankle is so much better to me than a broken ankle. And if you look at the whole quarterback situation in the NFL, I would say only like 6 teams are extremely stable right now. You have Cam Newton, who doesn't look the same in Carolina. Drew Brees hurt in New Orleans. Go to Atlanta, you got Matt Ryan, who's very inconsistent, but he's still there, which is important. Jameis Winston, who's fucking playing god-awful this year. Aaron Rodgers played better in Week 2 than he did in Week 1. You have Mitch Trubisky, who sucks. Matt Stafford, who got his first one of the year, which is good. Undefeated, technically. You have the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, who is god-awful and one of the most overpaid players in NFL history. So out of those two divisions in the NFC, if you're like, okay, what do you think? You maybe take 4 of those quarterbacks. Maybe. The only ones I would take personally are Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan. I would not take Matt Stafford. I am sorry. Then you look at the West, it's not much. It's better because you got Russell Wilson, who's solid. Kyler Murray looks really good. Jimmy Garoppolo, and then Goff. That's the only division with 4 healthy, solid quarterbacks right now. It seriously is, and that's scary because you look at the East, Eli Manning's not playing well. The whole fucking Giants team's not playing well. Carson Wentz is not playing consistently through games. Case Keenum can't push Washington over the top, although he hasn't been playing terribly. He just can't push him over the top. And then you have, of course, Dak Prescott. Probably the most solid quarterback in the division. In that division, you'd only have like 2. So there's only 8 NFC quarterbacks that I would feel safe with on my team right now. And it's injury-wise, it's kind of sad because even if you look at the AFC, you have Derek Carr, you have in that same division Phillip Rivers, Pat Mahomes, and then Deshaun Watson. No, not Deshaun Watson. You have Joe Flacco. I don't know why I got that mixed up. That right there, you have 4 healthy quarterbacks, which isn't bad. But realistically, you only take maybe 2 of them, maybe 3, because Matt Mahomes obviously is amazing. But look at the other divisions. You have Andy Dalton, who played well week 1, so that's a good thing. You have Lamar Jackson, who's absolutely lighting it up right now. You have Ben Roethlisberger, who is obviously out, like I said. And then you have Baker Mayfield, who's been up, who's been down, who makes some terrible throws, but he makes some good throws, throws some dumbass interceptions, throws some good touchdowns. So I wouldn't really take him right now. There's only maybe one quarterback I would take in that division right now, and that would be Lamar Jackson. You look at the East, Tom Brady, Josh Allen. Those would be my only 2 quarterbacks right now. Fitzpatrick can't throw a fucking touchdown or can't avoid an interception to save his life. The Miami Dolphins are fucking awful. The Jets are on their 3rd quarterback right now. And then you have the South with Andrew Luck retiring. Jacoby Brissett is playing well. Deshaun Watson, pretty good. Gardner Minshew, not sure what you're going to get from him. And then Marcus Mariota, always inconsistent. It's just, I've never seen this much like star power go down this early in the season, especially at the quarterback position, with the likes of Breeze, Foles, Big Ben, and Sam Darnold. Because if you look at that, that's already over 15% of your league starting quarterbacks that have gone down. And that's terrifying, because it's only week 2. So what do? Obviously, if they go on IR, like a Nick Foles, or like what probably a Trevor Simeon's going to do, or a Big Ben, you have to sign a backup quarterback. And in this league, there's not that many good backup quarterbacks, especially if you look at Madden in the ratings. There's no good backup quarterbacks in the NFL. And we're starting to see that right now. The Jets, I think, got lucky with Luke Falk being available because he looked very solid last night. Didn't play great, but he was a 3rd-string quarterback, so I'm not going to expect a lot out of him in his first actual game time. But he looked really good. Mason Rudolph of the Steelers looked really good. Then you have Gardner Minshew, who last week just thrusted into the spotlight, looked really good. And he looked pretty solid against the Texans, but got fucked because they went for 2 points instead of 1. And the 2-point conversion they went for, all they did was hand it to Fournette, one of the most overrated running backs in the league, instead of handing the quarterback. But I digress. And you have Saints, who have to go to Teddy Bridgewater. But behind him, who do you have? Taysom Hill, who I don't think could steadily play quarterback for 40, 50 snaps a game. Teddy Bridgewater is solid, but his accuracy is very inconsistent. Sometimes he hits a dime, sometimes he can't hit the broadside of a barn. It's a very interesting problem the league is facing. And a huge problem as well is the fact that these injuries that these quarterbacks are facing are not short-term injuries. It's not like, oh, Cam Newton has a concussion, he's out for 1 to 2 weeks, hold the team up. It's Sam Darnold has mono, he's out 5 to 7 weeks. Big Ben out for the year. Drew Brees out for 6 weeks. Cam Newton's not the same, but we won't talk about that because he's not technically injured right now. Nick Foles out for the year, stuff like that. So you're asking these young guys to be thrust into the spotlight to start or whatever, whether it's their rookie year, 2nd year, whether they haven't really got good starter snaps. Teddy Bridgewater hasn't really gotten any snaps since he played with the Vikings, which is awful. So it'll be interesting to see how this handles. And I'm not going to be the kind of guy who says, oh, one of these teams needs to sign Colin Kaepernick. But when you start looking at the quarterback market and realizing, oh, it's getting really fucking thin of quality quarterbacks, then what are you going to do? You're going to say, oh, can I get Jay Cutler? Oh, can I get Tony Romo as a backup? Oh, can I fucking just somehow pull Kellen Moore out of the OC position in Dallas and get him as a backup? There's not a lot of, amazing options. The Colts got lucky when they had Jacoby Brissett move up to the starting role after Luck's retirement, and they got Brian Hoyer, who was then released by the Patriots. But if you look at the Patriots, they have Brady and Stidham. What happens if Brady goes down? There's a lot of teams carrying only 2 quarterbacks. I think a lot of it's to do with the value of carrying a 3rd quarterback isn't high enough than, let's say, carrying maybe a 5th wide receiver, 6th wide receiver, stuff like that. Because if you look at another situation, let's say the Patriots with their offensive line, Cannon's hurt, Wynn's hurt, Wynn's has turf toe most likely week to week, stuff like that. They need to spend extra roster spots on the offensive line because you don't want to put Cannon or Wynn on IR, so you have to put them on one of your 7 game day inactive spots. So there's very limited situations you can do. So having a 3rd quarterback would take up probably an inactive spot as well, and that's not something you want to do to put yourself in. And it's very interesting. It's almost like a quarterback purge in a sense, and I don't mean that in a bad sense at all. I mean, if you look at the dynamics of the NFL over even the last few years, if you look at the elite quarterbacks, you'd be like, oh, Big Ben, oh, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, stuff like that. But now, if you look at all these older quarterbacks, or all these star power quarterbacks, even Nick Foles, when he carried the Eagles to a Super Bowl victory, he had that star power. Even last year, they were talking about, oh, start Foles over Wentz, start Foles over Wentz. But if you look at it now, it's not only guys who are drafted high like Kyler Murray who are getting their turn. It's a lot of young quarterbacks being forced into the spotlight. It's like a forced purge of veteran quarterbacks in favor of younger quarterbacks. And it's not something the NFL obviously planned, because injuries are very serious and you never want to wish injury on anybody, or at least I think no true fan would ever wish injury on a quarterback. But it's very interesting to look at, because if you watch the dynamics of the NFL, all these young quarterbacks are being thrust into the spotlight, whether it be poor play, injury, stuff like that. Like, look at Kyler Murray in Arizona. That was their plan all along. You have Dwayne Haskins in Washington, who by the time they face the Patriots might literally be starting, because Washington can't win a game right now. So if they have 0 wins by the time they face the Patriots, they might throw in Haskins anyway. You have Josh Rosen, who's only a second-year quarterback who actually started last year, but is being the backup of Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's being thrust into one of the worst teams in the NFL history, Miami Dolphins, against a Patriots team who somehow got 7 sacks and 4 interceptions and 37 goddamn fantasy points. Then you have in New York, obviously, Luke Falk, who is I want to say 5th round draft pick from Miami, who got thrusted into the spotlight. Gardner Minshew, 6th round rookie, thrust into the spotlight. You have all these young guys being thrust into the spotlight, especially Mason Rudolph, 2nd round, or I believe second year player. I think he was a 2nd round pick last year of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I could be wrong there. And actually, I hate it, because obviously I hate injuries. I've said that before. I hate injuries. I hate how Tyreek Hill got hurt. I hate how Nick Foles got hurt, because it changes the dynamic of the NFL so much, especially if you look at the Saints. Super Bowl contender, NFC home berth contender, Drew Brees goes down, and if, depending on how Bridgewater plays, they'll be lucky to get into the playoffs. If Bridgewater goes 1-5 in those next 6 weeks, the Saints are fucked. But still. And then you have Daniel Jones, who might be thrust into the spotlight in New York. It's interesting because you have all these mainstays, like I've said previously, Eli Manning, Big Ben, Drew Brees, stuff like that. You even have a young player in Sam Darnold who goes down due to mono, and it pushes Luke Falk. So what does this do? This not only creates a lack of depth at quarterback, but when these players get healthy, when Nick Folk gets healthy, or when Nick Foles gets healthy, not Nick Folk. Nick Foles gets healthy, when Sam Darnold gets healthy, when Big Ben comes back healthy next year if he plays at a high level, Drew Brees gets healthy, Eli Manning, say if he gets traded, that not only creates a lot of... Not only brings in literally every veteran player who's struggling or is hurt right now, especially hurt because there's like 4 or 5 quarterbacks of quality talent that are hurt right now, but with those young players being thrust into the spotlight, like Keenum, he is a really good backup. So if Haskins gets quality snapping time, that's 2 quality quarterbacks you have. But it gives those young guys some valuable experience, some valuable playing time, and it almost breeds a depth of quarterbacks to which I don't think the NFL has had in a long time. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. It's a good thing for next year on, not this year, because with all the injuries and stuff like that this year, it's kind of barren in the backup market. But next year, when all these guys either take back up their backup roles, or the guys who they were backing up take up backup roles, the backup depth in the NFL, I think, will be greatly increased. But right now, with the play, maybe 4 or 5 elite quarterbacks in the league right now. And if I had to name the 5 elite quarterbacks right now, off the top of my head, I have to go definitely Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes belongs in elite category with how he's performed over the last year and a couple weeks. You have Dak Prescott right now, who's playing at an elite level, although he's more borderline than anybody else. You have Tom Brady, who's playing really well. Aaron Rodgers, who's playing really well in a new system, but really well. And you really only have Russell Wilson as well, who's playing in the offense. There's only a few elite quarterbacks. So what this tells me is if you look at the teams, like at the playoff teams, say fucking Chargers, Chiefs, Patriots, Ravens with Lamar Jackson make the playoffs. Who do you have as the other two teams? Probably the Texans with Deshaun Watson, but look at the young talent in the playoffs that would be there. You would have Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, you would have Patrick Mahomes. You'd have potentially Buffalo with Josh Allen, who should very well take advantage of all these injuries and earn their spot in the playoffs. And then in the NFC, you'd have young players like maybe a Bridgewater who can sneak the Saints into the playoffs. You'd have maybe Arizona if they can get everything together, because they looked really solid in their last game. They didn't. Did they actually win? Hold on, I gotta look and see who they faced last week. No, Baltimore won, but Arizona played well. Maybe they sneak into the wild card. Going into the next few years, this is a little bit off topic to where this video started, but I've never been more satisfied with how the NFL will look in a few years. I had that stretch in watching the NFL where the mainstay quarterbacks were Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning. You also had Tony Romo in Dallas. You had McNabb in Philly. You had McNabb in Washington, I guess you can count that. You had Favre in Green Bay as well. But I'm talking like Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay, so they haven't really struggled with quarterback-wise. Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco with Baltimore and Cincinnati, respectively. But we're in that transition period. And I think these injuries are kind of forcing that transition period forward even more. I've never seen so many starting quarterbacks in the first 5 years of their contract who have such high potential all at the same time. I love it. I honestly love it. It makes fantasy teams a little bit harder to project. But I don't know. It's both worrying and concerning, especially if you're a Drew Brees or a Big Ben, because at this point in your career, you're getting older. Big Ben, part of the '04 draft class. Brees, a little bit older. They're younger than Tom Brady, realistically. Obviously, Brady's fucking 42. But they're at that point to where an injury like this, an injury to the throwing hand, an injury to the elbow, could make it to where you never throw again. Or never throw the same again. So, are we starting to see the decline in some of these stars? Is this a purge of the once great quarterbacks? Eli Manning can't seem to play the same because obviously that fucking team is awful. I don't think that's any fault of his own. He could provide 1 or 2 good years to any team if he was traded. But a lot of these star quarterbacks are not playing the same. Even look at Cam Newton. He's not that old. He's not that old, but after that shoulder injury, the ankle injury in preseason, he's not playing the same whatsoever. He doesn't have as much zip on the ball. It's kind of, it looks weaker. Andrew Luck retired, stuff like that. So all this star talent, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Drew Brees, Big Ben, Eli Manning, stuff like that, their stars seem to be fading. I'm not saying Cam Newton could bounce back. I will say that Cam Newton could bounce back. Nick Foles, he finally got his time in the spotlight. An injury like this, after contemplating retirement previously, could be a bad sign for him as well. But, in conclusion, although this does seem like a quarterback purge, and by that I mean the great veterans we once knew are going down, they're not playing the same, stuff like that. This purge is being replaced by a bunch of really good-looking young quarterbacks. Like I said before, Minshew, Rudolph, Falk look good. Bridgewater gets his first chance in a long time. Daniel Jones could get his first chance. Kyler Murray's playing in his rookie year, looking really good. Lamar Jackson in his second year is looking good. Patrick Mahomes in his third year is looking really, really good. And then you have young players on the wings in Cincinnati who could potentially break through. You have a young player in Drew Lock in Denver who could eventually break through. Stidham, who looks like he's going to be getting snaps the next few years whenever Brady decides to retire, could break through. this position that we're in young quarterbacks already in the league, poised to break through. And then you got talent coming in like Tua Tagovailoa, Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, I believe is his name for Clemson. I'm sorry if I got the name wrong, but we're in probably, and I will say this now, this could be a bold saying right now. In the next 15 years, this looks to be probably the most stable the quarterback position will be and will have been for a long time. And I like it, honestly, I do. I just wish it didn't happen this way, and I wish the best of luck on every quarterback currently on the NFL roster. Please, stay healthy. I don't want the quality of football to suffer any more than it already has this year. If Mahomes goes down, I will be extremely fucking pissed. If Brady goes down, I'll be pissed. Rodgers goes down, I'll be pissed. If Cousins goes down, he's playing like shit anyway. But still, I won't be happy about it. Hopefully Drew Brees bounces back healthy. Big Ben, hopefully he bounces back healthy next year. And, anyway, that was just my thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next one.